Hello YouTube, it's me Vdeogamer, and today I'm going to be drawing Ichigo versus Naruto in one epic drawing. Hopefully it turns out epic. I haven't drawn in a very long time. I'm mainly going to focus on the details of the characters, so I'm not quite sure what's going to be going on in the background yet, but you guys will see. So, without further ado, let the drawing begin. And now we have an intro clip with the logo and saying stuff, and I'm probably going to start drawing like right now. We are going to get started with our drawing of Ichigo and Naruto right now. Alright, I'm going to stop that. First, we're going to get a good sketch going of where we want the characters to be. This isn't going to look a thing like them at first, but this is just for the idea, to get an idea for where I want the characters to be. So now I've got my basic sketches done, I'm ready to begin actually really working on these characters. And this shape here is sort of going to resemble a pointed oval, if that makes any sense. We're going to have one point here, connected by two sides, and the other side is going to come around here to the front. Then from there, his eyebrow is going to be right over top of that. And we got his other eyebrow pointing right there, but we've also got to take this band and sort of curve it up this way now. And on this side we have his other eye, sort of going to be shaped a little bit differently. So we're going to retain that general shape, it's just going to be very narrowed. And now we're going to put in his eyes. And the pupil inside of the eyes is just going to be a black circle for now. We're sort of going to lighten it up, lessen the intensity a little bit, because there's going to be a few different colors in that. And on the sides of Naruto's face here, we have 3 lines coming across it. They're sort of like scratches almost, but they look like that. I've always thought it kind of made him look like a cat or something. And now what I'm going to do, to bring out a little bit more of Naruto's personality, I am going to make his hair. The spikes are wide, and they don't go out too far. There we go, the hair helped out a lot in making Naruto look like Naruto. And I think once we get the eyes colored, it's going to help out a lot. To wrap up the work on the head, we're going to draw in the emblem on Naruto's headband. And as the band comes backwards, getting tighter, it needs to look like it's a little bit tense. And there you have it, Naruto's face. We're going to start working on his clothing. So, I'm going to start with this blue part up here. At least it's going to be blue later. And it's sort of going to come up here more. And on the back of Naruto, there's this circle. And it sort of has a swirled design into it. Sort of like that. Coat coming back here. We sort of want to make it a little bit more jagged. And the rest of this is going to be sort of divided up into smaller sections. It sort of seems like it's frilled a little bit. This is looking pretty good so far. We're going to continue work on the arms here. And this area here is where Naruto's arm actually starts, but we've got a little bit more slack up here. And pretty much we're going to do the same details and structure for his other arm, making the coat appear bulky, but not putting too many lines on it. Coming down to Naruto's waist, we're going to have the coat coming out here. And it comes out to this point because, once again, there's a lot of slack in the coat and it sort of bunches up down here. And you will see that the pants also have quite a bit of slack in them. Not as much as the shirt did. And going along the pants here, we have what seems to be a line that represents the seam of the pants themselves. And this is going to bend all over the different lines that we have going across here to make it seem like it's actually part of the pants and that it folds over it. Now on this area here, we have some more detail, and this area here needs to be a bit tighter, so we're going to make it thinner than the actual pants themselves, sort of clinging more to his actual body form. In this drawing, we're going to utilize a bit of perspective. There's a little bit more depth to the drawing by making it seem like his knee is closer to the viewer of the drawing, and we're going to do that by making it actually bigger than it normally would be. So before we begin this hand in particular, we first need an idea of where the object is and how it's going to interact with the hand. So I'm going to draw it in first, and now that we've got this in place, we're going to wrap the hand around it now by drawing a general shape of how the hand is going to curve around it. It is also going to follow this perspective. As we go back farther this way, fingers are going to get smaller. As we come back this way, they're going to get sort of larger. We're sort of going to make the hand raise up a bit. Better follow the curve of everything. The thumb's coming back down here, but we can't really see it. And as a little bit more detail, they have these two lines on the hand here to sort of make it look like his hand is more tense. On the kunai here, we're sort of going to make it look like it's popping up a little bit. Then we've got the circle on the end here. Only we're sort of going to draw it like an oval because it's tilted sideways slightly. And down here we're going to add back in all the details that we did before, so that way that area is complete. Got his two other fingers coming there. And we sort of have his wrist tilted back because he's getting ready to throw this kunai at Ichigo's face. And we're going to have his thumb over it here, being the only thing that's really holding it against his hand. Feet are going to be relatively simple because most of it is covered by his sandals slash shoes. I think they're more close to sandals though. So first we're going to have this band here, have another band there, and then it's going to curve off like that. And we sort of have his foot bent as though it is very tense. He's going to be turning his leg so he can do a spinning kick into Ichigo's face. With as big a blade that Ichigo has, I don't know how he's going to block any of this stuff that Naruto's doing. Naruto's like gonna go full on ninja on this guy. And now the most difficult part of the shoes is actually going to be our toes here, because I am not very good at drawing toes. I don't know very many people that are. They're just kind of weird whenever you try and draw them. I'm going to do my best here to make them look right. Now we're going to work on Ichigo's face. Ichigo's face is a lot more angular than Naruto's face is. His face is very, very angular. Ichigo's eyes are not quite as big as Naruto's. In many ways, Ichigo's proportions and his facial features are more realistic than Naruto's. And the eyes are just sort of these triangle shapes. Drawing this part here to sort of make it look like he's focused. Now we're going to draw in a circle for his inner eye. And we're not going to try and put a whole bunch of details in it just yet. Otherwise it'll get way too crowded there. Got a line here to sort of define his chin a little bit better. And we're going to see if we can clean things up a little bit. And his chin is actually not going to be so much rounded, but it's going to be very chopped and straight. Alright, and now comes the part that's really going to help bring out Ichigo's personality a little bit more. is his hair. Because once again, the hair makes up a lot of the character. Ichigo's hair is a little bit more complicated than Naruto's. Well, a lot bit, but if you need to know what Ichigo's hair looks like, I've put a source image down in the description below, because it is very difficult to draw. The main difference between Ichigo's hair and Naruto's hair is that Ichigo's hair has a lot more spikes, and Ichigo's spikes are thin and long. So now we can actually compare what the two hairstyles look like. Ichigo's has a lot more detail in it, a lot more spikes, and it was more difficult to actually get it to look right. Naruto's has bigger spikes, they're more cartoonish sort of, and just in general his figure is not as proportionate as Ichigo's is. I'm going to put a few lines down here on the neck area. We're going to see if we can get a little bit of detail into the eyes. In the ear here, we have a little bit of detail. Now we're going to start working on Ichigo's body a little bit more. I'm going to start here with the collar. Well, I guess not really the collar, but it's a V-neck, I suppose. And we're going to pull this till about this point here and outline it twice. We want to make sure we've got his arms going out right. So we're sort of going to draw what they're doing underneath of the cloak, and we're going to play a little bit with perspective on this drawing as well, making this hand seem a little bit bigger and his sword entirely bigger, as though it is coming towards the viewer. You're not really going to see his arm back here, but we need to make sure that everything is right. But here we're going to have his cloak coming up above his arm. Then here, to sort of mark off where his waist begins, we have this white band coming across the center of his body. And since he is moving rapidly this direction, we need to have it so that the cloth is sort of blowing back this way. And then coming around Ichigo is a chain of red triangles. These also will seem like they're sort of billowing in the wind a little bit. Now the thing about Ichigo's cloak is that even though it doesn't have a whole lot of variance in it, it has a lot of detail in how the cloth wrinkles are folded into it. And you really can't make all these wrinkles with just a regular pencil. It's going to have to rely a lot on the shading that we do in coloring. So for the most part, we're just going to get the general outline of the cloak done first. We have Ichigo stepping with one leg out here, and he's using that weird technique that they have that they can step on air with. I forgot what it's called. Maybe somebody can remind me in the comments below. And his other leg's going to be back here as though he was running, so you're not even going to get to see that. We're going to do a little bit more detail on the arm here. Cloth is sort of going to come up like that, and as it comes down, I want it to sort of be billowing out. And we're going to have two parts of this. On the very outside, there's going to be a little bit of white showing from the inside of the cloak, and on the other arm, pretty much going to do the same types of details, and then the rest of the cloth of his cloak for that arm is just going to trail behind, just like that. And the knot on the waistband needs to be a little bit bigger. What's interesting about these two characters is that even though they are very different, they have different proportions, their hands are still almost exactly the same. So we're going to draw Ichigo's hand here, clenched in a fist. And it's going to be a rather tight fist because there's not much material that he's grabbing, but he's actually grabbing the end of the cloth that comes from the end of his sword. We're going to draw the basics of his fist, and we're utilizing perspective here to make it seem like it's a little bit closer. We're sort of need to cut off his knuckles here. Make them all even. And we're sort of going to show the underside of the fist a little bit by bending the fingers around just like that. The thumb is actually going to start back here. It's going to make its way all the way to the front here. Alright, that's probably good. We'll have the clock come over his thumb there. And we're going to have the rest of it come out from the side here. It's sort of going to weave its way back around Ichigo, back to the end of the sword. Coming here on the other hand, it's going to be clenched around his sword. But then it's going to come back and it's going to stop at a point here. And the last thing we have to draw on Ichigo is his foot. Draw it out like this. He has a much longer foot than Naruto does. Got part of the sandal coming along like that. Part of it straps down to the base. Now comes the next part of the drawing, outlining all the lines that we want to keep before we begin coloring. I cannot find my ultra fine point Sharpie at the moment, so I'm going to try using this gel pen instead. Hopefully it works. Pretty much, I'm just going to outline all the lines that I want to keep. This will prevent me from losing my outlines whenever I begin coloring, and it's going to give me a much cleaner drawing by the time I get done with this. And typically on the face, we have very thin lines, and on anime characters in particular, their eyes are not connected all the way around. Typically only have a line above, like we do here, and a line below. That's it. So now that we've finished outlining our character, you might want to wait a bit to let the ink of the pen dry. If you're using Sharpie, it's going to dry faster. But now that it's done, what you're going to do is you're going to take a large eraser and you're going to erase all the underlying pencil underneath the drawing. This is what's going to give you those nice defined lines that you kind of see in most animes themselves. And here is our drawing outlined. The pen kind of forced me to go over the line more than once, so I think the line work has become a little bit edgier. Edgy line work might actually work better to emphasize the tension and the action in this drawing. First thing I'm going to do in coloring these characters is I'm going to lay down a base coat color for every single color on each of these characters. Starting off with Naruto, I'm just going to put down a light yellow for his hair color. And you want this base coat color to be as smooth as you can possibly get it. This is so that we don't have as much white showing through the color by the time we get done coloring it. And pretty much, you're just going to take a base coat color and color in every single shade of color. And here we're going to spend a little bit of time working on Naruto's eyes. They are mostly blue, even the center of them is blue. We want to make that a very dark blue. And towards the top portion of his eye, it should be a bit darker. And I'm going to take my eraser and I'm going to put a highlight into the eye. Instead of starting out with black as our base coat color for Ichigo's cloak, we're actually going to start out with a dark gray. That way we can incorporate a lot more shading into the drawing than if we had started out with black. His eyes are going to be brown, but you're not going to get to see a whole lot of the details in them, mostly because the eye is a very dark brown. And now it's time to shade the characters. First, before you even begin adding on other colors to your drawing, you need to pick where you want your light source to be. I'm going to have my light source as the sun, way up above them in the sky somewhere. The shadows are coming this way. Basically what you're going to do is you're going to take a darker color of whatever color it is. For Naruto, I'm just using this orange here. And we're shading away from our light source so as to create the impression that his arm and his whole body is a 3D object. And we're going to do that for every single color on this drawing as well. For the plate on his headband, we're going to bring a few different shades of gray into the mix to sort of shade it, make it look interesting. Even going to take our eraser and create some highlights here and there. Ichigo's hair also has a little bit of particular shading to make it seem more like his hair. Start off with a sort of darker brown spot right about here. Going to make some more spikes in the center here, and then we're going to blend in one final shade of orange to make the color seem complete. For Ichigo's cloak, I'm going to darken up things a lot, starting out with the black. So I'm just going to cut out a few spots here and there. The light gray is going to show up. The rest is going to be filled with black. Okay, and now comes the part that's really going to make Ichigo's cloak look like his cloak. We're going to start adding some black into the mix here. I've sectioned off a lot of the areas that I want to be black, so I'm just going to fill it in pretty much. And these other spots that I'm leaving open are later going to be filled in with a dark gray. On Ichigo's sword here, we're going to use the same technique that we used for the cloak. This is going to have a little bit more black than the cloak did. Now the blade of Ichigo's sword is also sort of going to have the same pattern. It's just we're going to use a lighter gray and the white that's already there this time instead. And here is my finished drawing of Ichigo and Naruto about to battle it out. Who will win? You guys should leave who you think will win in the comments below. And also what you think of this drawing. I think I did pretty good on this drawing, for this being only my second time drawing Ichigo and my perhaps first time drawing Naruto, but I think it turned out awesome. You should also know that I take requests on drawings. This in itself was a request, but if you'd like to send me a request, you can do so by going to my channel, sending me a message with the character that you want me to draw, and then right after you do that, you should subscribe. That way you don't miss it if I happen to turn that into a tutorial someday. Once again, thank you guys for watching this video. I'm going to see if I can get one drawing out like this, one per week, so subscribe for that. Thank you guys for watching, and until next time, keep on drawing. I have no idea why I did this. Sometimes I think I'm just a little bit too animated with my hand motions. I don't know. Looks like I'm a ninja now. Ninja chop. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Why don't you guys click one of these links so that way I don't have to be stalling for time any longer. I have other things to do. I'll just let you guys take your time. No worries. Don't gotta rush anything, you know, so I'm going.